Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Page of Swords podcast. This is episode 44 with my guest, Lexie Maitland. So I hope I got that. Anyways.
Yes, close enough. Yes. Yes. What's up, guys? I'm excited to be on. I'm so excited.
You know what? I want to say right off the bat too, like, I love your YouTube for one thing, but I see you turning pro here soon. I wanted to get you on before you get all like everybody starts grabbing you for other podcasts.
Honestly, that means so much to me. Because I truly feel, and we can go into this later in the podcast, like I have competed a handful of times, and I feel like I haven't had it like easy. I haven't, just done well overnight. So I'm really hoping so, I trust that, that it'll happen with time. So
Absolutely. And, we'll get into your show history, but
yeah.
How long have you been working with Paul Ravella? I would hope everybody knows who Paul is. He's a huge, like, bikini girl coach. I mean, he's got other people too, but he's definitely got a great YouTube following. So how long have you been with Paul?
So I've been with Paul as like a coach, actually for a lot less longer than people probably assume. It's been about a little bit less than a year that he's been coaching me, right? So before I was coached by him, I was working for the company. And so I knew Paul, right? But I was just kind of intuitively eating for a while before he started coaching me. And when he started coaching me, we jumped right into contest prep for this past year.
So you haven't even, that's going to be another thing is for your continuing seasons, Paul's going to have more time with you. So that's really interesting that you haven't really had too much time with him yet. So things will get better.
Yeah, I'm excited. I was very surprised because I guess it was like maybe February, March. That's when I really sat down with him. And, I was like, hey, I think I want to like get back to competing. And again, we can go further into this, but I competed for the first 2 times in 2018. So I was a baby at the time. And then I took like 3 years away from stage. And then this past, last February, March is when I kind of sat down with him, and I didn't really know where the conversation was going to go. I just wanted to put it out there that I wanted some guidance, that I wanted to compete again, get on stage. So quite honestly, I did not expect him to say that I'd be able to prep this year. I was kind of thinking that he'd want to like work a little bit, first before prepping, but we jumped right into it.
That's great. It shows you have the experience and that you've already been working with him, and you're there in Florida with him, correct?
Yes, I am. I'm here in Tampa, Florida. I am about 25 minutes away from like where he lives, but we're both in the Tampa area.
That's great. So you guys get like one-on-one, face-to-face interaction. I'm sure that's better on his part too. He gets to see you. I'm sure online. I mean, I'm not a coach, so I would understand like maybe it was easier that way to prep you with you there.
Yeah, I think there were a couple times leading up to show, he would have me come in and he'd be like, hey, come in, let's pose. And, he was able to actually see me in person. And, I know as an online coach too, that like, you can usually see what you need to see in progress pictures if they're good quality progress pictures. But sometimes seeing people in person, it is a lot different.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad you kind of bring that up a bit with posing with your coach in person. I'm sure that's a huge difference. Like you can pose people online, but it really is nice to have some posing experience in person, whether that's with your coach or with an actual posing coach or whoever.
Oh, yes. I 100% agree. I think it definitely makes a difference. You can get by with, doing it online, but it is a night and day difference when you're doing it in person.
Absolutely. And with you guys down there too, I mean, I'm sure you've done some Florida shows and he always goes to those, I'm sure.
Yes, that is so nice. Having him there. I did my first show this past season in 2021. This past season. It was actually in Oklahoma. But he actually traveled to it. He was going to travel to it regardless. But he kind of convinced me to do that show. And I was like, you know what? I'll do it if you're going to be there, because it is kind of nice just having like that comfort, of having your coach there. Plus, I think any competitors listening out there know that your body sometimes is changing pretty rapidly on show day. So, if your coach is there in person and able to see, hey, you're falling flat or, whatever it may be, they can actually tell you what to do right in the moment in person.
Yeah, and he's very knowledgeable with bikini especially. I think that's also a nice little side note there is it's really nice to have a coach who knows your division.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, and that's, kind of where I see, like, not to go off on another tangent, but I see a lot of sometimes like first-time competitors, they just don't really know what to look for in a coach. And I'm not saying you have to have this, but, they'll hire like they're just like their local Joe Schmo, whatever, who doesn't really know anything about like the bikini division. Maybe that coach coaches like, I don't know, a ton of men. And I think there is something to be said for having a coach who's really knowledgeable in the specific division you want to go into. And even furthermore, a coach that attends shows frequently, that knows what the judges are looking for, that knows who the judges are. Because, I mean, for the most part, judges are going to judge you in the same way to an extent, but you get different judges out there who sometimes favor different things. So it's nice when you have a coach who kind of knows, hey, let's go into this show because, maybe it's Tyler, maybe it's Sandy, I think they're going to like your look and I want to get feedback from them.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you bring up Sandy and Tyler, because if you have nationals on the mind and they're going to be a judge at a regional show, you should pick that one, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely. And that's exactly what we did this season when picking my shows. So again, I did an Oklahoma show in May. That was my first show of the season. And people are like, why'd you go to Oklahoma? Like, that's so random. But I specifically went because Sandy was actually the head judge. So that's why I went to that show, to get behind Sandy. And then I actually did the Tampa Pro in August. And, Paul really encouraged me to do that because Tyler Mannion was the head judge. And I had never been behind Tyler. And so, yeah, you're so right. It's important to get behind those good quality judges if you are looking to take it to like the next step in your competitive career.
Oh, absolutely. And then I also want to ask, was the Oklahoma show, was that your first traveling experience show?
Actually, no. So like going back to 2018 when I competed for the first time, I actually was living here in Tampa. I competed when I was a freshman in college. I was living out of my dorm, and my first show was the Orlando Europa. So I traveled. I mean, you could kind of consider it travel, just like it was a road trip from Tampa to Orlando. I stayed in a hotel, and then my second show that I did that year, because I did two shows in 2018, was in Orlando as well. However, I had moved back to St. Louis, which is where I'm originally from. I had moved back because it was like that summer in between school. So I actually flew from St. Louis to Orlando for that show. So it was not my first travel experience. However, I did learn a pretty valuable lesson this past May, because when I traveled to Oklahoma, I traveled on Friday. So I got there the day before the show. And, some people can get away with doing that, but I am such like a stress case when it comes to travel. And I'm sure, like when you're stage lean, any little bit of extra stress, your body's going to show it. So like, I remember being on the plane and just, this is going to sound so stupid. I would go to I went to the bathroom on the plane, and I remember like just pulling up my shirt because I was like, oh my God, I hope I'm not like just retaining a boatload of water from travel. So that's actually something I learned is next time I do travel like that, I need to make sure I'm there at least a day before so my body can just like rest and adapt.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, this was my first year traveling like that with a flight and everything. And I totally relate. It's not stupid because it's kind of like you said, a stress thing. And especially for most of us females, like we're going to overthink a little bit, especially with a show. Like we work really hard for that, So
Yes. Yeah. And it's more stressful than like, regular travel, because then you're worrying, oh my God, I can't forget this. I can't forget that. Cause I mean, if heaven forbid you forget something like your shoes or your suit or, something like that. And that's not a good thing. So yeah, I learned my lesson.
And I'm glad that you're sharing that too. That's why I wanted to ask, because now that I've traveled for a show and got a little bit of like the airplane experience and just like kind of like if there was a mistake made, like you learn from it, because when you do turn pro, most of the show, well, you're pretty lucky in Florida, but a lot of pro shows, for most people, you're gonna have to travel, so get the experience now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a great point. If you're trying to go pro, those national level shows, chances are you're not going to be lucky enough to have one in your backyard, you're right. I live in Florida. I have the convenience of like, we don't have any national shows in Tampa, but there's been a lot in Orlando. But yeah, it's good to get used to the travel experience. And, also like traveling with all your food too. I know people always freak out about that. And let me tell you, you can actually get pretty much anything through TSA, as long as it's not a liquid. I mean, I've gotten, yeah, peanut butter is a liquid. Yes. They may search you. I've definitely been searched a lot and had like my bag taken apart, but they will let you through with anything as long as it's not, a liquid. So.
Yeah. And it's that I get that question a lot with traveling. I'm literally like, seriously, just put everything in a plastic bag so they can just see it. And then just don't even try bringing the peanut butter. Like, don't even do it. Just buy it when you get there.
Exactly. Like, yes, I actually just traveled a few weekends ago, or I guess it was last weekend. Yeah. For Christmas. And I came, on my flight back, I had made some like oatmeal and I mixed like some Greek yogurt in it. And I wasn't really sure if it was going to make it through. Cause like, you just never know. It's not a liquid, but you never know. It made it through. So PSA, I think some airports, every airport differs, but yeah, you can pretty much take anything through security food wise.
Yeah, especially if you end up traveling around a show where there's just a ton of people coming in. Like, I live in Pittsburgh, so when North Americans was going on, like, that's a lot of competitors for like an entire weekend.
Yeah.
And I remember I was, so that was September. So then in October, I went to the Olympia, and the guy right away was like, "Are you a competitor?" Like, he just knew, like,
He
from
knew.
that weekend, he was just like, he just knew.
That's so funny. I always do feel bad because, if I have to eat on the plane and, whatever I'm eating at, and not that I eat like that weird of things, but to the, most people whipping out a Tupperware with whatever it may be, like chicken, broccoli, or eggs or something, like, it's not the most appealing thing. So I always like feel bad. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
It's so funny because I know, like, to us, it's like, we got to do what we got to do. But yeah, I've been on the plane. I got my little bag of fish and asparagus, and I am so hungry. I do not care. I'm eating.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Sometimes I'll even like keep it in the cooler or like my backpack and kind of just eat it out. So people like eat it out of the bag. So people don't like see exactly what I'm eating, to, cause a stir.
Yeah, I relate so hard. So anybody out there, don't worry. Like, just pull out your little baggie and eat.
You just gotta own it. Yeah. Own it and realize you're probably never going to see the person who's sitting next to you again.
Right. Absolutely. And like, it might smell bad, but just hurry up and eat it and the smell goes away. And plus, everybody's got masks on now. So
I know that does help. That does help. But yeah, you just have to realize you're never going to see them again. And I mean, I have always kind of dealt with like, not the like food shaming or sometimes the food shaming, but with like family and friends who aren't bodybuilders, I've always kind of gotten that like those weird looks or those questions of like, why are you eating that? Why can't you eat like a normal person? I got that one a lot. Or I always used to get, why can't you eat normal food or like real food? And I'm like, well, my food's pretty darn real. I'll put it that way, but yeah, I've kind of always dealt with that. So I've learned to kind of mitigate it and try to let it go the best I can.
Yeah, honestly, like, I know you are a very positive person, but that's kind of how you have to approach it and just be like, there's nothing wrong with what I eat. It's what I want to eat, and you can eat what you
Yes. Yeah, it's what I want to eat. Yeah, I think that's a big thing that I've kind of learned is if somebody chooses to question what you're eating or, put you down for eating something different, you just have to explain to them, why you're eating what you're eating. First off, tell them that it's, helping you to achieve your goals. And I think also making sure that they know you're not like choosing to deprive yourself and that what you're eating is what you enjoy. Because I think a lot of times the reasons people judge you for eating what you're eating, if it's different, is because they think you're like depriving yourself or restricting. So if they know, hey, like you love that and that's what you're choosing to eat, they should have no issue with it, really.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up just because it is like right after the holidays, and I definitely hear that a lot. And what about with your clients? Do you ever have clients that are just like, how do I approach this food wise? Like, it's a
Oh,
problem?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That was a big theme this month, or like the past month or so with, Thanksgiving and Christmas. Of course, with all my clients, if they weren't on prep, we of course, had like an untracked meal or an untracked day with Thanksgiving and Christmas. But yeah, that was a fear from a lot of people. I mean, I even had one girl tell me that her mom, which this is like the opposite, I feel like, of what most people deal with. I guess her mom kind of like judged her for eating so much because she can eat a lot to, maintain her frame. She's got a lot of muscle. So that was a new one I hadn't really ever heard, before, like a mom saying, kind of judging their daughter for eating a lot. But yeah, and I told my clients kind of what I just told you. You just have to explain to people why you're doing what you're doing. A lot of times their judgment stems from their lack of understanding why you're doing it. And also something else to, remember, because I'm big on like reading into like the psychology side of things too, is a lot of people, they judge you for living the lifestyle you're living because it's kind of an insecurity deep down that they can't, do what you're doing, or they don't have the discipline to do kind of what you're doing. So their way of like making themselves feel better, which it's not okay, but they'll put you down, and that sometimes makes them feel better. So that's another perspective too.
Oh, definitely all about perspective for sure, especially with social media and everything like that right now. I think a lot of people are just too worried about what other people are doing. So it has.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
So I wanted to ask about, your whole show history. I know we've been kind of all over the place, so I apologize. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's
It's
just
been fun.
so many things that you've brought up are very important. I know for sure, for sure. So your first show you said was 2018,
Yes.
and you did, let's see, the Orlando first, and then
Yeah.
we did, what was the second show?
It was a small show here in Florida. It was called the Southeastern USA's. I think they still have it every year. I believe it's like Chris Edie is the promoter, but it doesn't, no judges like Sandy or Tyler or anybody there. But quite honestly, I didn't know anything about bodybuilding or competing when I first started doing it. Like
Mhm.
what I know now compared to what I knew back then, oh my gosh, night and day different. I started competing because so I moved to Florida, or I moved to Tampa for school. That's what brought me here. And I've been down here ever since. But, bodybuilding and like competing in general is not huge where I'm from. So I'm from St. Louis, and I think there's like 2 shows there per year. But I wasn't, ever immersed in it when I lived in St. Louis. No one really at my gym except maybe 1 or 2 people competed. So when I moved to Florida, and I started going to the gym. It's huge down here. A lot of people compete. A lot of people know of competing, even if they don't compete. So I guess I kind of looked like the part, like I wasn't staging or anything, but I definitely, you could tell I lifted, and I always was getting asked, like, do you compete? Do you compete? So finally I got asked that so much. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. This sounds fun. So, I reached out to somebody who was local. She was a competitor. She coached. And she kind of, prepped me for my first 2 shows. But like I said, what I knew back then, I mean, I knew I didn't know everything back then, but it's just funny to really look back and see how much you learn and grow, throughout the years in the sport.
Hmm. Oh yeah, and it's like that first coach kind of like is that stepping stone, kind of like,
Yeah.
whether they're good or bad, no matter
Yeah.
what, that first coach is going to set the tone, and then how you are as a person out. Because like I've had my experiences with coaches, and it's just like I don't regret them at all because it's put me where I am now.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, 100% I agree with that. I'm very fortunate in the sense of my first coach, as a first-time competitor, I was very naive. So I probably would have been one that would have been very easy to just like take advantage of. Thankfully, my first coach, there was nothing bad with her. I mean, it was I can't complain about the experience. But yeah, you definitely grow a lot throughout the sport. And also, going back to how you said you don't regret past coaching experiences because it teaches you things. It's like same sense of like what I have learned by the mistakes I've made within my own journey. The first 2 times I competed back in 2018, I stayed stage lean for way too long afterwards. And it wasn't like, it's kind of hard to explain. It wasn't that I was like, I did not have to suffer too much to stay that lean. Because I think anytime, like sometimes you prep for the first time or you diet for the first time, your body just naturally like responds pretty easily because you've never dieted before. So I would say I was, able to stay stage lean, and I didn't feel like I was dying. Right. So I definitely stayed just way too lean though for too long post show. And I truly at the time did not realize and understand the importance of a true improvement season, of putting on that necessary weight, not only to, be healthy again, but to put on lean muscle. Like that's a huge part of the sport, is continuing to improve in that sense. You don't just put on weight in your improvement season to be healthy again. Like you put on weight so you can put on more muscle to come back better. So I just didn't understand that at the time. So I definitely attached myself, to staying pretty lean for a while, but you know what? I don't regret that, because if I wouldn't have gone through that phase, I probably wouldn't be as like self-aware of that now.
Yes. And I actually want to ask a question for a bikini point of view
Mm-hmm.
on staying lean too long, because I mean, this happens across any division. Some girls just want to hold on to the shreds, but
Yep.
in bikini, is there like a stigma or something stereotypical that you see with bikini girls? They're like, I don't want to get too big. I don't need to, but it's like what you said,
Yeah.
the national level girls, like you need muscle. And like you said, it takes
For
time. Yeah.
sure. Yes, you need the muscle. And, I've definitely have had clients, and I mean, I've struggled with it in the past too. I think we all do, just kind of letting go of like the shreds. We go like, we see ourselves lean for so long, and that kind of becomes our identity, right? Sometimes that's like all we post on social media. It can become very hard to let go of that. And, I think one of the reasons why I've had some of my girls that struggle with letting go of the shreds, or, personally why I have sometimes struggled in the past, is sometimes I'll look at like, the pros out there, the top bikini pros. And some of them, not all, but some of them stay pretty lean in their improvement season. But I have to remember that they're kind of on a different like side of things. They're a pro, and chances are they don't need to put on a lot of muscle in their improvement season. Therefore, they can get by with just gaining a little bit of weight and be okay. Whereas I'm still an amateur. I need to put on sizable muscle. So, I always tell myself, well, it's either me not putting on, the necessary size that I need to, and then just continuing to come back and look the same every time, or me getting a little uncomfortable, getting outside of my comfort zone within reason, and it paying off long-term in me coming back with an improved package next time.
Absolutely. And again, having a coach in the off season, one that you can trust, like what you have, like sometimes it's nice to just have a coach, just be like, listen, chill. I got
Yeah.
you. Like, I'm not the coach. Like even my coach said that she's like, I'm not going to let you get fat. You'll be all right. Like
Yeah.
we can always cut back.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what Paul told me from the get-go. He's like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. We're probably going to need to get up to this number, around this number, just so you know. But he told me, he's like, I'm not looking to get you like extremely uncomfortable in your improvement season. He knows, and I know that I need to put on muscle. I'm a pretty tiny person, and I feel like a lot of people, whenever they meet me in person, they're like, oh my God, you're smaller than I thought. But he kind of told me, hey, we're going to get up to probably this weight. That's what we're going to need to hit. But just remember, I'm not trying to get you, to the point where you're feeling uncomfortable and your workouts and your lifts are impacted by that.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, like the food that you eat should be for the gym. Like
Yeah.
we're not just like eating more food because it's off season. No, we're eating more food for the purpose. And I hope that
Yeah.
people would realize that, no matter the division, like all of us need some muscle. It's bodybuilding. So don't think like
Yes.
just because bikini's the smaller division muscle wise, you still got to have some.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like we forget that it's the sport of bodybuilding, like when you're in your improvement season, that's truly when you are fulfilling that bodybuilding, side of things. When you're in prep, that's not the time where you're going to be building any muscle. You're just pretty much maintaining the muscle that you've already built. I always tell my clients that think of your improvement season as when like you're building the physique that you're going to furthermore reveal on stage. And prep is just a sense of peeling back that layer of body fat and revealing what you've built in the improvement season.
Yep. I say it's like, being a car, like you're coasting down the hill until you run out of gas. Like there's no
Yeah.
like stopping on the brakes. Like, no, you got to just keep losing some calories, doing your cardio, just coasting into the show. And, yeah, you still got to train hard and do what you have to do. But at the end of the day, like the show is for losing weight. And I say in off season, it's like, don't even worry about it.
No, no. And I think, it can be hard in the, off-season improvement season to like let go of like the goals are different, and you have to accept that you have to focus on different things in the improvement season. So, whereas in prep, you're probably always pulling up your shirt when you're walking past the mirror, or always checking out the shreds, right? you know, in your improvement season, you kind of have to like stop doing that. I mean, you can continue to do that, but it's probably going to get you in your head, and you have to like kind of change your thought process a little more to like, you know, focusing on how strong you can be in the gym, focus on hitting PRs, like get that dopamine or that confidence boost from hitting PRs in the gym, not just from seeing a new line. Because I think you probably know too, like those lines, those shreds, they look awesome, but you really don't feel that great when you're that lean, you know?
I'm like, I lost my booty. I am so glad to have it back right now.
Oh my God, yes, I know. It's like I will tell you right off the bat to anybody listening, you know, it may seem like looking stage lean, like, you know, that I was not the most confident I've ever been when I was stage lean. In fact, I remember being stage lean, like, you know, a week or two out from my show, going into the gym and just like looking at myself and being like, oh my God, I'm tiny. Like, and there were times in competition prep where I would actually cover up going to the gym just because I felt a little self-conscious. I just felt so small. And thankfully, like I go to a gym where there are a lot of other bodybuilders, so they generally know like what's up when they see your weight fluctuating. But I have also have gotten comments, you know, at other gyms where people are like, oh my God, like what's wrong? You're getting so small. You look like you've lost a lot of weight. And then that messes with your head. So, you know, I definitely feel a little bit more confident when I am not stage lean.
Yes, definitely. You just feel good, just like what you said. Oh, before I forget, I wanted to ask, so your first couple shows, do you happen to remember what your feedback was, like starting right away? Like what did they tell you
Yeah.
to do?
So that's a good question, because going back to like I knew nothing. I didn't even know to get the judges' feedback. I did not. So I don't even think I got feedback at my first show. I do know specifically though for my first show, a huge area I had to improve on was my posing and my stage presence, because just the way I posed did nothing for accentuating my physique. And then my glutes have always probably been where I would need the feedback. So if I were to like objectively look at my stage pictures from my first and my second show, I would say the posing. And then my second show, I definitely could tell, like my coach told me at the time, she's like, your feedback would be, or what we need to work on is just putting on size. Like I was just very small. I was super lean. There was no issue with that my second show, but I was just way too small. And I just needed to put on some size.
Yeah, and you're still very young. I mean, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I just turned 23 at the end of November.
Oh, girl, you'll get all kinds of nice like muscle maturity too.
I hope, because sometimes I have to really sit back and kind of, you know, remember what I preach to my clients, that this takes a long time. Like this is, especially, you know, I'm a natural athlete and it does take a little bit longer, you know, and that's just something I have to realize, but I just have to, you know, appreciate the journey. And I think I saw like a quote out there that says like slow success builds character and fast success, not always, but fast success can build ego. So I'm like, okay, slow success builds character. I'm gonna keep that one in mind.
Yeah, it really does. And like we've been talking about, where you learn mistakes or learn from mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
those all add up. Because then once you're at that ending point, you'd be like, I already made that mistake and we're not going to do it again. And
Yep.
all it did was help you for the now, like all the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I would not be like the athlete or the coach I am right now if I had not gone through, you know, all the stuff and all the mistakes I've made in the past.
Absolutely. So after 2018, did you compete in 2019 or any breaks?
No, so I did not compete for the whole 2019, the whole 2020, and then I got back on stage this past May in 2021. So after my second show that I ever did, you know, that was the summer I lived. That was the last summer I lived back home with my parents. So that was a bit of a tough time, because after my show, my mom was really like, you know, it was the smallest I had ever been. She didn't really understand the whole bodybuilding side of things. That I totally understand, like from a mom's perspective, I probably would have been the same way. So she actually made me go to the doctor, like the week after my show, which, you know, is usually not really, as a competitor, you know, you have to expect that when you're going to go get blood work or go to the doctor, like, you know, things are going to be off because you're very close to being stage lean. So after that, you know, the doctor was concerned. She, you know, made me go to a dietitian, all this stuff. Right. And they just, you know, I never felt like they really understood like that. Hey, I wasn't, you know, it wasn't that I was sick, and, you know, psychologically, mentally, like I wasn't sick. It was just, you know, I don't think they understood the sport. So that kind of scared me away from ever wanting to get back on stage at the time. So, you know, I moved back to Tampa for my second year of school, and then I've been down here ever since. So it wasn't until earlier in 2021, this past year, that I felt like I just wanted to get back on stage. I'm like, why am I like, what's holding me back? Why not? And so that's when I talked to Paul, and I was really nervous though, because I know I'm a grown up, I can make my own decisions, but I was really nervous, like what my mom was going to say, if she was going to support it. So I was so nervous to tell her. And she ended up, honestly, like, she came to one of my shows with me this year. So she's a really big supporter, nowadays. And I think that that's, something to put out there for people. If you have somebody like in your family or in your life who doesn't support you, that does not mean they're not going to eventually come around. Like I said, my mom hated the idea of competing, a couple years ago. But I think, as she has seen me kind of grow, not only as a coach, but just maturity wise and as an athlete, I think she understands a little bit more about like the sport, and she's a lot more accepting. And she even told me, like, going to this show with me this past year, she was like, I've learned so much, Lexie. Like, I see, why you do what you do. I learned a lot. So it was, it's been an interesting experience with that, but it's been cool to kind of see her evolve throughout the time too.
I like hearing that because I have a very similar type of thing too. But yeah, it's not, if you do have that opportunity to take a family member to a show, it does really help to just go. Because like even now, like my parents, like if anybody ever says like, don't you think Paige is getting a little too big? And they're just like, no, like we've seen some pretty big girls and she's not.
Yes. It was so cool for my mom to go to the show. And I even, I did the Janet's Battle of the Bodies this past July. That's the show my mom and I road tripped down to, because it was about like a 3-4 hour drive from Tampa. So we got a hotel room and she experienced it all. She went out with me after the show to get some pokey. She was there for me, and it was fun. And then, that next week I did the Tampa Pro, and she was really sad because she had like something, already planned, so she couldn't come. So she was so sad. I'm like, Mom, it's okay. But yeah, it was really fun. And honestly, that was one of my best memories in 2021, was just getting that show experience with her. It was a blast.
I love hearing that. That's great, because it is very important in this sport to have the right support system, and when they understand, because I've told my parents, I'm just so grateful you guys don't judge me for the Tupperware. Like, you just really need to have someone make you feel like it's not like you're doing something for you that's fun and positive. Like, it shouldn't be shameful, especially from your own family. And I know girls that tell me that their family doesn't support it, and that's like really sad.
It is. It's really sad. And I think, going back to kind of what I said at the beginning of the podcast, like the best thing you can do is just explain. Like, I said, my mom, she told me that she learned so much from going to, the show with me. And that's really helped her to like better support what I do. Cause like now, I'm in my improvement season, and I was at her house the other day, and, they were going to fix dinner, like burgers or something. And honestly, I don't love that type of food. And I was more content eating, something else I would make. And, she didn't care. She didn't bat an eye. And that's just, it hasn't always been like that, but that has just come from me explaining to her, hey, I love what I'm doing. Like, I'm not depriving myself in any way. And just, really taking her through the process along with me.
Yeah, I relate too, because I did the same thing over Christmas. I had Thanksgiving dinner, but Christmas, I just was like, I don't want this food again. Like, I'm just going to eat what I want. And all that matters is that I'm here. And I'm bringing this up because a lot of people don't realize, that's what you should tell your family. It's about me being here. It's not about what goes in my mouth.
That is such a huge point. I had that discussion with a particular client this past holiday. I said, it's not always about the food. Like, everybody, I feel like food is such a huge emphasis on, any social gathering, whether it's a holiday event or not. But it truly just matters if you're there, if you're present, right? Like, it shouldn't matter if you're choosing to eat something else, or if you're, not eating something. Like, as long as you're there, you're present, and you're in the moment, like, that's all that matters,
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, now we're, and this is good to bring up, because I hope that if people could take this away, because we'll have Easter. So, we're always going to have family functions. And then that's the other thing too. It's like, okay, you skipped Christmas this year. Don't worry, because there's another Christmas next year.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I still sometimes will struggle around the holidays, just, you know, with not, I don't know, just I think we all do to some extent.
Natural. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like every holiday, you know, you learn something new and it progressively gets better and better.
Yeah, and then the more you're in the sport and you realize what foods work for you, like you
Yeah.
know, there's going to be carbs that make you bloated, some vegetables, and then like for me, like turkey it just makes me feel uncomfortable. So it's
Uh-huh.
like I'm cool with it for Thanksgiving, but after that, I'm like, okay, no more.
Oh, yes. We're always reminded, you know, when we overindulge a little bit or eat something we're not normally used to eating, we're always reminded, like, that next day, like, why we eat the foods we eat. Because I know, you know, this past Christmas, I ate a lot of stuff I don't normally eat. And the next day, I just felt gross, felt heavy. And my workout was not the best because just when you feel heavy and like gross, like, it just isn't the best workout. I was reminded, I'm like, okay, this is why I track my macros. This is why I eat the foods I do, because I do not like to feel this way.
Yeah, definitely, especially since we've got goals. You know what I mean? Like it's like, listen, it's like going to work. Like, hey, I got to go to
Yeah.
work in the morning. I got to go work out and like train. I don't have time to feel like crap.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I've gotten to a point, like, for me, and it's probably the same way for you, like, I don't train because I feel like I have to. Like, I don't go to the gym as punishment or as something that I'm like, okay, I have to do this today, you know, whatever. Like, I go to the gym because you can ask, like, my dad specifically, or I, you know, anybody who knows me, when I go to the gym, I am a completely different person when I come back. Like, my mood is different. I'm more present in the moment. So, you know, that's my little thing I do throughout the day that not only makes me feel good, but it's like that one thing that kind of fills up my own cup so that I can bring my best to others and, like, actually be a good person to be around.
Right. Yeah. And you know, like you said, like it helps your mood. And I know for me, it helps my sleep. I mean,
Yeah.
I love my rest days, but I definitely know sometimes those days are harder to fall asleep. But that's
Hmm.
not me saying I love rest days. Like
Yeah.
we work out hard enough that we want those rest days. But I will say, like, it is hard to sleep when I don't get to work out.
Yeah, it throws off your routine a little bit. I know I used to hate rest days. Like, you know, I used to be that person that was like, go every day. But, you know, I've realized that, hey, if you like, you're doing yourself no good by not resting. Like, growth, like muscle growth happens when you're resting, when you're recovering. And plus, I just have noticed, like, the quality of my workouts is so much better when I actually rest. And, you know, I've gotten to the point, like you said, where honestly, I look forward to my rest days now because I work hard enough when I'm at the gym that, you know, my body knows when it needs its rest day. And, you know, sometimes I just, like, I'll take advantage of my rest day to do other things that I normally wouldn't have time for, you know? So yeah, so I definitely have learned to love them too.
Yeah, definitely. You have to, and I think in bodybuilding, it is good to have like another hobby or something to stay
Yeah.
occupied with. Like I know you have your YouTube channel, which YouTube takes time, and that's a good
Yeah.
project. So
It
stick with
does,
that.
yeah. YouTube is another one of my hobbies. I love, like, you know, baking, cooking, and, you know, usually I try to take my rest days, like, on the same days each week. My body's just kind of used to that. Granted, it changes every so often if it needs to, but Saturdays specifically, you know, are days I don't have any client check-ins, so I try to take, you know, that full day away from work-related stuff, and I don't have to do cardio and I don't have to go to the gym, so usually I'll take advantage of that. And, like, you know, with it being a Saturday, most people off work, I try and, you know, hang out with friends or visit my family, because my mom lives about 45 minutes away. As of 6 months ago, she moved down here. So, like, I just try to take advantage of spending time with others on that day because, you know, I know if it's a normal day where I'm training or I have a lot to get done, like, that's all I can think about. So I'm usually not as present in the moment when I'm with other people. So I just try and take advantage of, like, Saturday being my rest day and then also being a day off of work related stuff to just be with others and be fully present and in the moment.
Yeah, and definitely like in that same concept for prep, like your rest days are definitely just as needed, and it is good to go out because I found that being at home, like it's like there's nothing else for me to do except for think about when my next meal is when I don't have anything to stay
Yes.
busy. So honestly, like you said, go see people, like go drive, do your groceries, stay busy because it helps a
Hmm.
lot whenever you don't want to think about your meal all the time because
Oh
body
my
can be
gosh.
that way.
Yes. And I mean, there are even still days, like, where I'm in my improvement season, even though my food is high. Like, if I'm just home all day and I'm not busy, sometimes that's all I think about. I have a studio apartment, so I'm pretty much in my kitchen all the time anyways, so like staying busy is so helpful, whether you're on prep or not on prep, it just kind of distracts you from that like constant thought of food.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Going back to your recent shows, I wanted to also bring up the point that not only did you do shows that had great judges, but you did shows that had some pros there. Like Tampa Pro
Yeah.
obviously had pros, and I would assume that Janet's show did as well.
Yep, it
So
did.
how did that feel as an amateur competitor to be around the pros?
Yeah, so that was really cool. Honestly, I don't feel like the show felt any different. Like me stepping on stage didn't feel any different. I have met a couple, well, I say a couple, like a handful of pros throughout like the year. So I've been around some of them. I'm really good friends with, I'm sure you know, Raja Hill, Paul's Olympian client. Yes. And then Denitra, who's also on the team as well. I'm really good friends with them, and they're both IFBB bikini pros. And they actually both competed in Janet's show as well. So, I thought I loved it. Because I felt like it was fun for me. Like the experience was, I not only got to get on stage, but I also got to like watch a show and kind of be a spectator, because I got to watch like the pro side of things. So it was like a 2-in-1 there. And, it was fun. I loved it.
I think being around the pros can kind of uplift you a bit. Like you just get so motivated, just like at the Olympia. Was that your first Olympia too?
Yeah, so I actually went last year just for like the expo, but yeah, last year was 2020, and like the expo was tiny. So I would not count last year as anything. So this year was, yeah, officially like the first year. I worked the bikini booth at the expo, and this is the first year I actually got to watch like the show in person. So that was really cool. I mean, I was like on a high for the next week just from that whole weekend.
Oh, we definitely. Are you going to go this year?
Yes, heck yes. I
Yeah.
know it's in Vegas. This will be my first time ever going to Vegas. So I know it's not till next December, but I'm like, heck, that's a lot, that's enough time for me to plan. I can get flights, and yeah, I would have way too much FOMO if I sat at home during the Olympia weekend.
Oh yeah. I feel like once you go once, now you can't go back. Like I
Oh
have
my God.
to.
Yes, yes. And that's one of my big goals this year, is just to travel a lot more, not just for like leisure purposes, but more so for work purposes, like going, and maybe, I want to do like a client meetup with some of my clients. I have a lot of clients in Texas, like a good handful in Texas. So I've thought about maybe, going to a show in Texas and like making a little client meetup retreat, on the weekend out of it. I'm going to go to the Arnold in March. So yeah, so I just really want to go to as many things as I can, this year, to meet my clients, meet more people in the industry, to, not only like have just fun and enjoy the experience, but also to further my knowledge as a coach, and going to these experiences and going to these shows and, just experiencing it.
Yeah, and that's like a goal of mine too, because like I've been to the Arnold before and everything, but it is just for you for business too, but connections are everything, especially in this sport. Like I don't know if everybody realizes this. To me, it just sounds like duh, but you don't really make a whole lot of money in this sport. You can use the IFBB Pro card and such as like a tool for yourself.
Yeah.
It's like a certification. Like you have to go out and do the work. Like you said, you have to go out and get face to face with people, because yes, social media is a great tool, but the power of interacting is just, it's so different. Like
Yeah.
invest in the traveling.
For sure, for sure. And that's kind of the way I'm looking at it is, I traveled a little bit last year, but, I really used that time to save as well, because I knew I wanted to allocate a little bit more money this year to just travel. But, looking at it, like you said, look at it as an investment, because those relationships, those connections that you make, I mean, there's nothing that compares. And, it's not to say that just like going to those events sometimes just reignites my passion and my fire, and I get like those creative juices flowing, and I'm also just like I always come back feeling extra motivated, extra refreshed, and just reminded like why I do the sport that I do, why I do this, because it is an isolating sport, if you let it be, if you don't, actively seek out those who also compete or who are in the industry, it can feel very like lonely and isolating.
Definitely. It is a good community. And
Yeah.
then the expos like the Olympia and the Arnold, you're going to get the biggest crowds. People migrate for those ones. So it's great to go to the small shows too. Great to
Yeah.
go to a pro show if you can. But those two big ones of the year. And it is nice that it's going to go back to being so separated, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because then, you know, you're going to get two different people that are able to go to one and then maybe the other or both.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's not like they're back to back, you know? So yeah, I'm excited for everything just coming up this coming year.
So one of my favorite questions I always have to ask my guests are about suits. So I know that
Oh,
you had a red suit. So
yes.
was it always red? Are you a red bikini girl?
No,
Okay.
I never thought I would have done red, honestly.
Yeah.
My first suit color ever. So I've always worn Angel competition bikinis, their suits. My first suit was from them, and it was blue. That was back in 2018. I loved that suit, but this year I knew I was probably not going to fit in that suit. So I'm like, all right, need to look at my options. I actually back in May for my Oklahoma show, I wore like an emerald green suit. It was actually one of Deraja Hill's suits. She lent it to me, and then because it did not fit her right, so I wore that. And then I was gonna continue wearing that, but I got one of my friends. She had like a ton of extra suits laying around, and she was like, you know, like brought some to me, and she's like, hey, try them on. And I tried on her red suit, and I was like, you know, this will just be fun to try on, right? It fit perfectly, which is like that's very hard to find a suit of somebody else's that fits that perfect. And then, you know, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take this and I'm going to, you know, I took some progress pictures in it. I sent it to Paul and I'm like, what do you think of the red? And he was like, oh, I really like it. And then like I would post some polls on my Instagram of like, you know, should I do red? Should I do the emeralds that I did in May? And a lot of people were like, go for the red. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do it. It's fun. And I love the red. And in fact, I definitely think that's going to be my next suit color. I'll probably change up like the crystal mix a little bit, but red has my heart. I also kind of like the purple, like the eggplant, because I've never done that before. But yeah, red has my heart for a little while now, at least for the next few shows.
I like that. I like yeah, I love talking suits. They're just so
Yes.
beautiful and like
Oh my God,
I
yes.
want to try red. So and it looked really good on you. I think with that
Thank
tone of
you.
hair color,
Yeah.
just looks really good with the red and the tan complements like your skin tone with that suit too.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I love the red. It was fun. It was kind of a last minute decision, but like it was just so fun.
Yeah, and I've always had green suits before. So my last
Really?
show, I switched it up just like you. I tried on a different suit that wasn't mine, and it was
Uh-huh.
pink. I wanted red, but it was
Oh,
and
okay.
I put it on and I'm like, man, this is huge from green. I guess I'll try it, and it worked perfect. So it's like
Yeah.
just go with your gut.
Go with your gut, or you know, find somebody, ask somebody who really knows their stuff,
Mhm.
and you know, they should be able to give you an honest opinion. You usually can't go too wrong with many suit colors unless it's like something like a yellow or an orange, and like, you know, those colors are very hard to pull off. So in that case, you may want to like get somebody else's opinion. But yeah, I'm all for going for the fun colors if they work.
Oh yeah, and I know it's sometimes a hard pill to swallow, but just because it's a color you like doesn't mean it's gonna look all that great on you.
Yeah, yes, sadly, yes, correct. But the suits, they're so fun. They're gorgeous. I love them.
So, what was your feedback from the last show?
Yeah, so the feedback from my last show, so I'll kind of go from like, since I did 3 shows, I'll tell my feedback from each one. So the feedback I got from Sandy in Oklahoma was leaner glutes. She said, my front pose was spot on. I was fine, but I just needed to bring in my glutes, and I kind of knew that. So then I didn't compete again until July at Janet's show, and my feedback, honestly, worst placing I've ever gotten at that show, but my best look. So I'm okay with that. Or I wasn't at the time, but I've learned to be okay with that. My feedback was just to bring in my glutes a little bit more, like a tad bit more. And then my tan, actually, that was the first time I had ever done the pro tan, self tan, which I think like is amazing. I've heard amazing things about it, but I'm very, very fair skinned. And I just don't think I put it on dark enough. So actually that was part part of my feedback. And then I went on to do the Tampa Pro the next week just to get behind Tyler, right? And my feedback was that I believe, oh yes, my feedback was, I'm trying to remember, build my upper body. So I think what they mean is just honestly putting on more overall size. I definitely, that's kind of what we're working towards in this improvement season, is just putting on overall size to my shoulders, my lats, and then also like putting on more glute density, glute muscle, because my glutes were really hard to get lean this past season. So I had to get very, very like small on my upper body just to get that, that glute hamstring tie-in to pop. So, that's just going to come with time, with me having more muscle on my glutes. That'll make it easier for them to like pop. So yeah, that was my feedback this past season.
Yeah, I like, I've seen you post before on Instagram, your hip thrusts, kind of like those are a huge staple for sure.
Yes.
So it's like, those are, I'm sure, a huge benefit to what you're doing right now to build those.
Yeah, that, and just overall, another thing too that I've currently been working on, because I find that like in my improvement season I have more time to like focus on things I wouldn't in prep, is my mobility and like my flexibility. So one of the things I've always struggled with, I've always been that person that's like, oh, I can never feel my glutes, I'm quad dominant, which usually means that there's like, it's not that I was born where I can't feel like my glutes activating. It usually means like something else is maybe compensating, or that you have another like weak and tight muscle group. So I've really been focusing on properly warming up, working on my hip mobility and range of motion. And I have noticed such a difference, when I go and do hip thrusts or just any glute exercises. I feel them so much more, when I actually take time to stretch, to foam roll, to activate my hips, or, do my hip mobility routine. And also just recovering more and taking rest days. I've been able to just have better quality sessions where I actually feel my glutes being targeted. So I keep wondering, I'm like, well, this is really the first like improvement season that I've actually felt my glutes working. So I'm kind of curious to see like if they look a lot different next time around.
Yeah, I'm glad that I actually wanted to bring that up. I saw in your stories the other day that you were doing the hip leg thing, whatever that one's
Yeah.
called. Cause I was like, those
Yeah.
are so hard and no one wants to do them, but they help.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I'm no expert on like hip mobility or anything, but I actually did see a video on Instagram from like a mobility specialist person. I don't know. He posted a video of these different like hip opening exercises. So I've been just kind of playing around. I'll do it like a couple times a week after I work out. I'll take, 10 minutes or so and just kind of, do those exercises. And I used to be a gymnast too. So part of me really wants to like restore some of my flexibility and my range of motion, because people still tell me I'm flexible compared to like the average person, but I am nowhere near as flexible as I once was when I was a gymnast.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's great, because now that you're in your improvement season, like we've been talking about, because even myself, like that's going to just help you in the long run for more benefit to your gains and your workouts
Yeah.
by staying limber. And,
Yes.
like if you're tight, what's that serving you for working out?
Exactly. And it's, it helps that you're going to be less susceptible to potential injuries, when you're flexible, and just, not as tight.
Do you do any chiropractor work or massage, or have you looked into it?
Yeah, so I've been to a chiropractor before, but I do try and get routine massages. Like I do really try to get like one per month, at least, because sometimes I'll notice that just like, I can usually tell my body can like starts to tell me when it needs a massage, and so I usually go for like a deep tissue massage, and I feel so much better afterwards. Because sometimes like even if I'm training shoulders, I'll feel like my traps are just engaging the whole time and I'm getting no like delt action. So usually, and when, that happens consecutively after, or during each workout, I'll know that, okay, hey, I need to get a massage. So I try to keep up with that like once a month.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I honestly, I mean, looking at your pictures, I think you have really great shoulders, but it sounds
Thank
like you're
you.
still improving those. So what,
Yeah.
I mean, I think any division needs more shoulders, but for bikini, like what has worked for you in the shoulder department to bring those up?
Yeah, so I definitely first and foremost make sure that I am targeting every head of the deltoid muscle. So that's a mistake I made early on in my training career. Like when I just started lifting, I would only like do, overhead pressing movements. And really that's only targeting your anterior delt, right? When you have the medial delt and the rear delt too. So really making sure that I'm doing exercises that are hitting every head of the delt so they can, really pop and have that 3D look. But I definitely I do volume for shoulders, but I still always start my shoulder workouts with kind of a heavier base, like compound movement, so to say. So I'll usually start with like shoulder presses, either with, dumbbells or with a barbell. And I'll do I'll work up to a pretty heavy weight, low rep with that. But typically towards the end of my shoulder workouts, I will do, some volume, some burnout sets just to kind of burn them out. I don't know. It feels good.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because I kind of wanted you to kind of express it as a bikini competitor. Like, don't be afraid to start out heavy. Like, don't be scared of the weight because shoulders, they need like that struggle. Like, you need to push them
Yeah.
just like any other body part. And I know that they kind of look small, but like you said, there's 3 heads to it. So it's like
Mhm.
there's a lot to work there, you know?
For sure. Yep. And I can assure any female out there listening thinking that they're going to become like bulky overnight does not work that way. I have been lifting for over 4 years and I am still working on putting on size. And, yeah, so going heavy is so important, and not being afraid to go heavy is so important. I always, start my shoulder workouts. I will start with just some lightweight to warm them up because, your shoulders are one of those things you do have to be careful with too. I've been fortunate enough, knock on wood, not to ever have suffered like a major shoulder injury. But last thing I want to do is put up, a pair of really heavy dumbbells without properly warming up and then dislocate something and then struggle with that injury the rest of my life. But yeah, don't be afraid to go heavy with any muscle group.
Oh, definitely. It's just, again, bodybuilding, like you're going to have to
Yeah.
push yourself, and none of this is easy. If it was easy, I mean, we all heard it, everybody
Right.
would be doing it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, it's fun. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about improvement season is like I have that fire again in the gym. I'm loving my gym sessions. I love feeling strong. I love feeling like an athlete. And yeah, in your improvement season, you're gonna have bad body image days. That's just part of it. But I remember when I was deep into prep and just kind of dreading going into the gym. And like that's not like me. But that's just what happens sometimes when you get so stage lean. You get low energy, you're tired, you're weak, and you're just going into the gym to do your workout and get out and then go back home and, lay down, whatever it may be.
Right. Yeah. And everybody wants to be hardcore, but let's just be honest. It's only natural that sometimes we just need a break, and it's okay to admit that. Like the stage
Yeah.
and doing prep is a lot of work, as it should be, but you don't want to get burnt out.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I have so much respect for any athlete out there too that can take time off and be okay with it. Like, I think sometimes people feel pressure like to, in order to keep their identity as a competitor that they have to compete like year round all the time. But like, you don't have to do that. Like you are running your own race, there is nobody out there saying you have to step on stage every year. In fact, like I've been getting asked, will I compete in 2022? Like, I don't know. Yes, maybe not. I don't know. I'm kind of letting my body tell me, and letting my coach tell me too when he thinks I have enough muscle, because I'm at this point, I'm not afraid, if I need to take a whole year off stage, I'm not afraid to do so, because if that means next year I'll come back and look like a completely different person on stage, like I am okay with that. The last thing I want is to cut this growing season too short where I just show up, on stage next time around kind of looking the same.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm right there with you, and that's a great mindset. A thing to express is like you work with your coach in the off season, like we've talked about, and it's
Yeah.
almost like it's good to have a goal. Like let's just say like maybe 2023, there's that show that's in your mind, but at the end of the day, like you're in that mindset where it's like, listen, we'll see. Maybe prep could start sooner. I don't know, but we got to see
Yeah.
how this growing goes.
Yeah, I think it's totally fine to have like just kind of loose goals and kind of throw them out there, maybe some shows you want to do. But at the end of the day, like don't force your body into doing something it's not ready to do. I'm just big on kind of let's see how I look, let's see what we're able to do and how I'm feeling within the next few months and then kind of go from there. Cause I always tell myself and I tell my clients this is that the stage is always going to be there. It's not going anywhere and you don't have to step on stage with a sense of urgency. Like you can wait and it's going to be there for you.
Right. And you have not done a national show yet, right?
No, I have not. And I'm big on I am not going to compete at a national level until, I would really like to I would love to win an overall, but I don't want to step on a national stage until I know I'm ready. And I just know that I have the conditioning. I'm lean enough, but I don't have the size yet. That's what I'm lagging. And national shows are expensive and I don't want to just go to just step on stage. Like I want to go knowing that I actually have a shot to turn pro.
Right. And like we talked about for you in Florida, there's not going to be any national shows anymore in Florida. So you're going to have
I
to
don't
not
think
only
so.
pay for the entry, but now you're going to have to pay for your traveling and
Yep.
it all racks up. And, you know, people must forget that like when you travel, you got food and the Ubers and stuff.
Oh my God. Yes, the Ubers always add up. I feel like people always forget about that aspect, but like, yeah, those add up. But yeah, I do this sport for fun, but I also don't want to, I'm not just one of those people that like wants to get on stage to check mark it off my bucket list. Like I want to do well, I want to eventually turn pro, and make a name for myself in this sport. And so I'm not just looking to step on stage, like just for fun. I want to step on stage knowing I'm bringing something that's competitive.
Right. Yeah. And I almost forgot I wanted to bring up too, you said about the feedback with the tan. I
Yeah.
agree. I think the DIY is probably great for certain people, but I've heard people do poorly or feedback with tanning because they wanted to try doing it themselves. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I know you save money, but to
Hmm.
get that feedback is going to hurt so bad because that was something that you
I
could control.
know. Yes, you're so right. It's that feedback that you get that you're like, that could have been an easy fix. Yeah, and I tried it out because I had heard so many good things about it. And I've heard like amazing things about it. But I was like, well, let me just try it out. You just never know. But I just think like I said, I'm so pale. And it didn't go dark enough. I think like the tan to like a normal person, I looked really good, but when you're on stage, they want something pretty extreme. So I ended up just buying the tanning package that next weekend at the Tampa Pro because I'm like, I don't want to get that tanning feedback again.
Yeah, yeah, I just wanted to share that, like, just because I've heard that before, and it's like, if you feel confident, like maybe you could do a test trial with the DIY,
Yeah,
but don't let that be the deciding factor, like, into your show and just be like, I'm gonna do
yeah.
DIY, and then it's like,
For sure, for sure. And same with like makeup too, because I get this question a lot of like some people they really want to cut costs going into the show. So they want to do their own makeup. But stage makeup is a lot different than just your average makeup. So if you're not super skilled with makeup or you haven't practiced a lot beforehand, it truly is worth it just to, buy a package with a makeup artist and have that stress taken off your shoulders. I know that's one less thing I have to worry about, going into the show. And plus that's one of my favorite parts is like getting my makeup done. So yeah, that's another kind of, relating to the tan in that sense of if you are not good at makeup, like don't risk it because I don't know if there's a lot of feedback out there that, pertains to like makeup specifically, but that's an easy fix you have control over. So you just want to eliminate any risk of getting bad feedback pertaining to that.
and I agree, and to be honest, if you are doing a show like we talked about with Sandy or Tyler, those little details do matter. Like, I'm sorry, like these are judges that see Olympians, and if you like get skimpy with your makeup and it shows, yeah, and I'm not saying that to be mean to girls that are good with makeup or whatever. I'm just saying it because it's just it's something controllable, and
Yeah. Yeah.
those high tier judges, they notice that way quicker than you probably imagine.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And, especially if you're competing at a show that's highly competitive where there are a lot of good like people in your class. Of course those little details are going to matter.
Mhm.
Gosh, I feel like the judges have one of the hardest jobs judging like some of those really competitive shows because you look at those lineup of like first call out ladies and you're like, how do they even pick? Like it comes down to those small details. So they really do matter.
They really do. And I'm telling you what, girl, I just like thought in my head, I'm like, man, we got a good year here, and you're not really sure what show you'll be at, but if there's a way you can come to North Americans, we would love to have you in
Oh my
Pittsburgh.
God. Well, you know what? I think regardless of if I were to compete there, I will. I think I may try and go. Because like I told you, as like a coach, I just want to travel to as many things as I can. Because I think that's important. And I do have some clients on like, in that area that I'd love to meet up with. So it's not out of the picture. Even if I don't compete, I may tag along with Paul or something to that show.
Yeah, he's always there. I'll be backstage tanning, so you'll see.
Oh, yay. Yeah, I will let you know if I'm there. Yeah, Paul's at every show. I aspire. I told somebody the other day, like my ultimate goal is to become the female version of Paul. So.
And I think you're on the right path because you do have a very strong YouTube channel. So if anybody is not following you, it's your full name, Lexie.
Yeah, just search my name. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know you have great topics. I just want to commend you for that.
Thank you.
I talked about the cost of competing.
Yeah.
You've talked about the breast augmentations, and that's like a lot of people's questions, especially for bikini, because I feel that for any female division, it's very popular to get that procedure done. Not for competing, but go watch her video because I know.
Yeah, that's another topic. Yes, go watch my video. And shameless plug, you do not need breast implants to compete. I'll just put it out there, ladies. But yeah, you can go watch that video, and I talk all about my experience with that.
Yeah, and your great food videos, because like I'm not a macro girl, but like I do like to watch mostly. I've seen bikini girls are mostly macro girls, and I'm always just like, I'm not going to eat that peanut butter and stuff, but I like watching you eat it.
It's the satisfaction, you get from watching it. I can relate.
Yes, definitely. And so we've got some goals for this year. We're just not sure what for you yet. And continuing to, are you taking on clients and stuff for coaching?
Yeah, I'm absolutely taking on clients. I coach both lifestyle clients and competitor clients. I actually have a lot of lifestyle clients too who have like expressed interest in competing in the future. So we're kind of working on like that phase before a prep. But yeah, I'm absolutely taking clients, and that's just something I always have the inquiry link in my Instagram, also on my YouTube. But if you just go to the Pro Physique website too, you can submit an application and just request me as your coach.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never been to their website, but that's really nice that they have that feature so you can see all the things, because I'm sure that's how that works. And
and you can always reach out to me too via DM on Instagram. I can always, shoot you, more information on that if it's something that interests you.
Absolutely. So yeah, we got YouTube, Instagram. Is there anything else that you want to plug?
No, those are pretty much my two main things right there. Yeah, you nailed it.
Well, before we sign off, is there anything that you want to add? Like, is there just a piece of advice for, say, bikini girls?
I guess not specifically just for bikini girls, but anybody listening, whether you're a competitor or even just somebody who's like has no interest in competing and likes living this lifestyle. The two biggest things I have learned would be, and I know you guys have probably already heard this before, but the whole comparison thing, like do not compare yourself to somebody else. Like if it comes down to it, filter who you follow on social media. The people that you follow should enhance like your outlook, your perspective. So don't fall into the trap of the comparison game. You are your own unique self, and that's awesome within itself. And then the second thing is take your time. Like it may look like people on social media and wherever you're seeing people, it may look like people have like had this instant success overnight, but believe me, it's not that way. A lot of hard work, a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of years and years of dedication goes into things before somebody like becomes, successful or a success. So just take your time and enjoy every stage of the process. Don't just enjoy prep. Don't just enjoy the glitz and the glamour. Like enjoy every part of it. The improvement season, the prep, the show day, like all of it. It's fun.
Love that. That's great. Great way to end this episode. And I want to thank you so much for coming on. Because like I said, I'm a fan of the YouTube, and I hope to follow you through this. And I hope whatever you continue to do this coming year, since it just started, Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Yeah, so this is a good time. I think fitness is really growing right now. And then, girl, it's going to be a good year competing with the pros. I think the Arnold and the Olympia. You know what? Side note, who would you say is your biggest bikini inspiration?
Oh, okay. I have so many. I could do like a whole list, but I'll keep it to one who comes to mind first. I love Erin Stern. She is actually somebody I met. I remember the first time I met her. I was in college and I saw her at my gym and I was like fangirling. But I love Erin Stern just because I feel like she she's obviously did figure and now she's in
Yes.
bikini. And I know like her first season as a bikini pro was a little tough. She in my eyes always had an awesome package, but it just wasn't what they were looking for. And then heck, she came back this year, qualified for the Olympia and went to the Olympia. So she's just a big inspiration to me. And plus I just know the type of person she is, and she's just as genuine and real in person as she appears to be on social media. So she's, one of my favorites, but I do have a ton, but I have a sweet spot for Erin.
Yeah. It's hard to pick a favorite, I know, because even I have a kind of favorite bikini girls too. So I know
Yeah.
you're so beautiful, and I don't know. It's just, I love them all. But
Me too.
I could talk to you forever. I love the energy.
I know. I love this. This was so fun. I was like looking forward to this all week. I'm like, I cannot wait to just chat because I live alone. I mean, I always get out at some point in the day and talk to people, but I love like talking to people because I live alone and I, either talking to myself or just not talking at all during the day. So
Oh, I'm the same way, girl. Well, hey, maybe sometime we can just do an Instagram live and see what happens, because
yeah,
I can just throw back ideas and everything. So
that would be
this would be
fun.
great intro for anybody that listens that wants to know more about you. And
Yeah.
yeah, okay. All right. Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This was fun.
Yeah. All right. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye.